Gojo Satoru was never meant to win. Not because he was weak, not because he made mistakes, but because from the moment Jujutsu Kaisen began, the story itself had already decided his fate. The strongest sorcerer in history was never the endgame. He was the obstacle. At first, that sounds impossible. Gojo Satoru is untouchable, limitless. Six Eyes. The man who rewrote the power scale the moment he was born. So how could a character like that ever be destined to lose? And more importantly, why would the story need him to? Today, we're going to break down why Gojo Satoru was never meant to win. Not just in battle, but in the narrative of Jujutsu Kaisen itself. By the end of this video, you'll see Gojo not as a fallen legend, but as a deliberate sacrifice written into the core of the story. Jujutsu Kaisen is not a story about strength saving the world. It's a story about strength failing to do so. And Gojo Satoru is the clearest proof of that. Before we go further, this discussion will include major manga spoilers. If you are anime only, this is your warning. Let's begin where Gojo's fate was sealed, the moment he was born. Gojo Satoru wasn't just powerful, his birth altered the balance of the entire world. Curses grew stronger. Sorcerers reorganized. Ancient threats began stirring. This isn't treated as hype, it's treated as a warning. In Jujutsu Kaisen, power always demands a price, and Gojo's existence raised the stakes for everyone else. That's the first red flag. In stories where a character is meant to win, their power stabilizes the world. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo destabilizes it. From the start, Gojo stands apart from the system. He mocks the higher-ups. He disregards tradition. He refuses to play politics. On the surface, this makes him charismatic, but narratively, it makes him incompatible with the world he's trying to protect. Gojo doesn't reform the system. He ignores it, believing raw strength is enough to overwrite centuries of corruption. That belief is Gojo's greatest flaw. Hidden Inventory shows us this clearly. Young Gojo is arrogant, untouchable, and emotionally distant. Then Riko Amanai dies. And for the first time, Gojo fails when it matters. Not because he wasn't strong enough, but because he wasn't aware enough. That moment reshapes him, but it also locks him into a dangerous mindset that becoming stronger will prevent loss. After that arc, Gojo becomes obsessed with power. Not in a destructive way, but in a desperate one. He perfects Limitless. He masters reverse curse technique. He becomes something closer to a god than a human. And yet, the more powerful he becomes, the more isolated he grows. This is critical. Jujutsu Kaisen repeatedly tells us that strength without connection is hollow. Sukuna understands this. Kenjaku exploits it. Gojo ignores it. When Gojo becomes a teacher, he claims he wants to raise a generation that surpasses him. But look closely at how he does it. He doesn't guide his students emotionally. He doesn't prepare them for the cruelty of the system. He throws them into danger and trusts that potential will save them. It's not malice, it's projection. Gojo survived through overwhelming power, so he assumes others will too. That assumption is wrong. Now let's talk about Sukuna, because Gojo's loss only makes sense when contrasted with him. Gojo represents modern sorcery at its peak, refined techniques, efficiency, optimization. Sukuna represents something older and far more dangerous. Raw understanding of cursed energy, domination, and control. Sukuna doesn't just wield power, he understands why it exists. When Gojo fights Sukuna, it's framed as the strongest versus the strongest. But thematically, it's something else entirely. It's isolation versus inevitability. Gojo fights alone. Sukuna fights with experience, adaptability, and a complete disregard for restraint. And most importantly, Sukuna grows during the fight. Gojo does not. Gojo enters the battle already perfected. There's nowhere left for him to evolve. Sukuna, on the other hand, treats the fight as a laboratory. Every exchange teaches him something. Every wound brings him closer to understanding how to defeat Gojo. This is the second reason Gojo was never meant to win. In Jujutsu Kaisen, characters who stop growing fall. Mahito falls when he reaches his peak. Jogo falls the moment he realizes his limits. Even Nanami, beloved as he is, falls once his role is complete. Growth is survival in this world. Stagnation is a sentence of inevitability. Gojo stagnates because he already stands at the top. There's also the issue of narrative tension. Gojo's presence breaks the story. As long as he's active, threats feel temporary. That's why he's sealed in Shibuya. Not because the villains are clever, but because the story cannot progress with Gojo freely walking around. Shibuya is the clearest evidence that Gojo was never meant to carry the ending. The moment he's sealed, the story explodes. Characters are forced to grow. Consequences become permanent. Loss becomes real. The world of Jujutsu Kaisen only truly begins once Gojo is removed, and when he returns, it isn't to save the day. It's to close a chapter. Now let's talk about the final fight. Gojo's battle with Sukuna is spectacular. It's the most technically complex fight in the series. Domain expansions collide. Techniques evolve. Reality bends. And Gojo does something incredible. He pushes Sukuna to the brink. But here's the truth. Most fans miss. Gojo doesn't lose because Sukuna is stronger. He loses because the rules of the world don't favor him anymore. Sukuna wins by understanding cursed energy at a fundamental level that Gojo never needed to. Gojo relied on Limitless and Six Eyes to solve problems. Sukuna rewrites the problem entirely. He adapts, he copies, he transcends technique itself. Gojo's death is sudden, shocking, and intentionally unsatisfying. Because this is not a heroic end, it's a narrative necessity. Gojo was never meant to be the one who defeats the ultimate threat. He was meant to show that even absolute power cannot fix a broken world. That role now falls to the next generation. Yuji, Megumi, Yuta, and the others are not stronger than Gojo, not individually. But they are connected. They rely on each other. They struggle, adapt, and grow in ways Gojo never had to. This brings us to the future. Gojo's loss reshapes the story's direction. Power alone is no longer the answer. Strategy, sacrifice, and cooperation become essential. Sukuna's eventual defeat, if it happens, will not come from overwhelming force. It will come from exploiting weaknesses, emotional resolve, and shared burden. That's something Gojo could never provide. A popular fan theory suggests that Gojo's true victory lies in his students surpassing not his strength, but his ideology. And that theory fits perfectly with Jujutsu Kaisen's themes. The new generation won't become gods. They'll become something better. Humans who understand the cost of power. In that sense, Gojo didn't fail. He fulfilled his purpose. Gojo Satoru was never meant to win because winning would have frozen the story. His loss allows the world to move forward, painful as it is. He was the ceiling that needed to be broken, the shield that had to shatter. And maybe that's the harshest truth of Jujutsu Kaisen. The strongest sorcerer in history wasn't defeated by weakness or arrogance. He was defeated by the story itself. So the real question isn't why Gojo lost. It's whether anyone can truly win in a world built on curses.